By now you're probably familiar with one or more programming languages. But what exactly is a programming language? A programming language is any set of rules that converts strings to various kinds of machine output. So a programming language is just a set of predefined rules, and to make them useful you need something that understands those rules. And those things are compiler, interpreters, etc. A compiler converts your code to machine code that the processor can execute. On the other hand, an interpreter runs through a program line by line and executes each command. Okay, have you ever wondered how you could create your own programming language? Well, we can just define some rule and thus create a programming language. And then to make it work, we can use any existing programming language to make a program that understands those rules, which will be our interpreter. And in this video, I'll show you how to exactly do that. To keep things simple, we'll be creating a very tiny programming language that will only be able to print stuff to the console, but still it will teach you a lot about how you can create your own programming language from scratch, so you can expand it to your liking. Okay, so let's see what we're going to be building. So here is the code for the programming language we'll be creating. So as you can see, we can use the var keyword to create a variable. So here I'm creating var message equal to, and I'm setting it to a string, so we can define variables and assign strings to it. We can print string and we can print the variable like so. We use print to print string. So now if I were to run it, as you can see, it prints hello world and secret message. So this is the tiny language that we'll be creating. This looks simple, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and we'll see how we can create it from scratch. I will be using Node.js, but you can use any language to follow along. The concepts will remain the same. Okay, let's start. So I'm going to minimize this window and start from scratch in this new window. I have a empty folder opened. Here I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it index.js. So the name of our language will be magenta. That is because it prints stuff to the console in magenta colors. So I'm going to create a class for it. So we are using object oriented programming. But don't worry, we won't be using advanced OOP stuff, only the basic stuff. So you should be able to follow along. So let's call it magenta. And then we're going to have a constructor function. So a constructor will run every time a new object of the class is created. So here our constructor will receive some codes. And then we're simply going to say this.codes equals to codes, like so. And let's also have one extra method. We're going to call it run. And for now, let's just say it will simply console log the codes. So we're going to say console.log this.codes, like so. Okay, now let's try to create a new object of our class. So we're going to say const magenta equals to new magenta, like so. And it needs some code, so let's create a multi-line string. So we're going to say const code equals to, I'm going to use backticks, that way we'll be able to use multi-line string here. For now, let's just say print, and we can print hello world, like so. So now we can pass our codes here. So we're going to say codes, like so, and then we can say magenta.run, like so. Now let me open up my terminal and try to run it. And as you can see, we have print hello world console log, so it is working. Okay, now let's start defining the rules or grammars of our programming language. So here let's have a multi-line comment. Okay, so let's say rules or grammars. Okay, since our language is very small, we'll only have a few rules. So first one is a print keyword followed by a string. So this is a valid rule or valid syntax for our programming language. So we're going to say keyword, and the keyword will be print, and after that we can have a string, or we can have a variable. Since we can also say print message, and it should print the value of the message variable. Okay, now let's create the rule for creating a variable. So for that we're going to say keyword, and the keyword will be var. So we'll be using var to declare variables. After that we'll have a custom keyword. So we can say keyword underscore custom for custom keyword. After that we'll have a equal sign, so we can say op for operator underscore eq for equal sign. These are some pseudo codes. It doesn't matter what you type here, you just need to define some rules that you can understand. And after that we can have a string, so string. So notice that our language only supports string, it does not support numbers or anything because it is very simple. And these are the only two rules that our programming language will have. So now we have to create a Lexer. But what is exactly a Lexer? Let's have a sentence. For example, how are you? Here how is an adverb, are is a verb, and you is a pronoun. And at the end we have a question mark, because according to the rules of English grammar, a question should be ended with a question mark. So we can divide any question into many grammatical components. The same way we can divide our code into many small tokens. For example, this print here is a keyword, this part here is a string. So just like this, every code can be divided into many small tokens. The function or program that divides the codes into small identified pieces or tokens is called a Lexer. So let's create our Lexer. So here I'm going to have another method, and I'm going to call it tokenize. Now one way to extract all the tokens out of this code here would be to use regular expression, but that's not the best approach. The best approach is to loop over all the characters one by one. So for that we're going to be using a while loop. Before that we're going to say const length equals to this dot codes dot length, so the total length of this string here. After that we are going to say const, actually not const, we are going to say let, and then we're going to say let pause for position equals to, by default it will be 0. So that we'll be using the position variables to get the current character. So if the pause is 1, we'll get R. When the pause is for example 5, we're going to get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this character here, like so. And after that we're going to say let tokens equals to, by default it will be an empty string. Our tokenize function will return an object. The object can have tokens and it can have an error. So here in our run function we are going to say const, and we can use this structure in here to get our tokens and our error equals to, and then we're going to say equals to this dot tokenize, and then here we're going to say if error. So if we have any error, we're going to console log the error. So we're going to say console.log our error. Otherwise let's just console log tokens for now, like so. So now we're going to say while, and here we're going to say pause position is less than length, like so. Okay, for better error handling I'm going to define two more variables. You'll see why they will be useful later on. So here we're going to say let line equals to, by default it will be 1. Since we are on line 1 by default, our code can have multiple lines. By default will be on line 1. And here we are also going to have let column. Column will be used for our position. So for example, by default our position will be 0. So we are at the 0th character. Okay, so here we are looping through all the characters. So here we can say let current character, and the current character will simply be this dot codes and the character at that position. And here we can say if, so if our current character equals to a space, in that case we don't want to do anything, because when we just get a space we don't have to do anything with the space. So we can simply say position plus plus, so position plus plus, and then we can also say column plus plus, and then we're going to say continue. And then we are also going to say else if. So else if our current character, so if current character equals to new line, so \n basically means new line. So if we were to have another print statement here, so let's say print hello world again. So here we have \n, which represents this new line here. So when we encounter new line, we can increment our line by 1, meaning that now we are on line 2. Our column will be 0 because we're at the beginning character of our new line. So column will be 0 and the position will increase as always. And finally we can say continue, because we don't want to do anything with the new line character either. And then here I'm going to define another variable called var chars for variable characters. Okay, before that let me just close my sidebars, so Control B and make it full screen. Okay, so var chars will simply be a string of lowercase a to z, capital A to z and underscore. Why? That is because these are the characters that can be used in a variable. So for example, this token here, it is a variable name. This is valid, but we couldn't just have, for example, let's say // like so. So a variable name cannot contain /. It can only contain certain characters. So in our programming language, a variable name or a keyword is allowed to have lowercase and uppercase a to z and underscore. So now here we can say else if. So here we can say var chars dot includes, and here we are going to say current characters. So current characters, the include method will return true if our variable characters contains the current character. If it does, that means we have encountered a variable. So in that case we can say let res for result equals to, by default it will be the current character, and then we are going to say while. Actually before that we also need to increase our position, so we are going to say position plus plus, and then here we are going to say while variable characters dot includes this dot position, we are going to say and position is less than length. So while we are not running out of our characters and the character is a variable character, we are going to say result plus equals to this dot codes and the position. So we're adding that next character into the result variable. So for example, our first character was P, and then we're looping over R, I, and T, and we're adding those characters into our res variable or result variable. Okay, after that we can say tokens dot push. So we are going to push new object into our token. So here we are going to say the type will be a keyword and the value will be response. Okay, before moving forward, otherwise we can say simply say else, and for now just only say pos plus plus, so position plus plus, like so. And let's try to run our code. So here let's try to say node index.js, and it looks like we have some error. Okay, we have some error, right? After the loop is done, we have to return an object. So return, and we can return error equals to false for now. So we're going to say error equals to false, and we're also going to say tokens equals to our tokens. So tokens, or using ES6 we can just say tokens, and this will work. And if we run it now, okay, we have more error. Let's see, console log tokens is not defined. Okay, we're returning tokens, not tokens, so this should be tokens, like so. Save. Let's try to run it one more time, and this time we're getting all the characters as keyword, but that's not right? Hello world etc is also treated as a keyword. Why is that? If we just ignore the quote sign here, hello also contains valid variable keyword. That is why this is treated like a variable. So we need to change that. So what we are going to do is, before doing this, here we are going to have another else if. So else if, and here we are going to say if current character equals to, if it is a double quote, that means we have encountered a string. So now we have to get the entire string. So basically we have to loop through our quotes until we get another quote sign. So let's see how we can do that. So for that we are again going to use another while loop. So here we can again say let res for result. By default it will be an empty string. After that we are also going to say position plus plus and column plus plus. And then here we are going to have a while loop, and here we are going to say while tokens at that position, tokens at our position is not equals to double quote and, so we are going to say and our position is less than length. So while we're in our boundary, actually here we're not going to say tokens, we're going to say this dot codes, and so we're now going to say while this dot codes at that position, so the character at that position is not equals to double sign, or while we don't run out of characters to loop through, we're going to say result plus equals to the current character. We are adding the current character to our result variable. Then we are also saying position plus plus and column plus plus. So after the loop is done, here we have to say if. So if, and then we're going to say if this dot codes dot position is not equals to double sign, that means this condition was true. So we have run out of characters to loop through, but we did not get any quote. So that could happen if we didn't put a double quote here. So we have looped through all our characters, but we could not get a double quote. That means we must have forgotten to add a double quote, which is an error. So for that reason here, where is that? Here we're returning an error. So we're returning an error message saying unterminated string at line and column. So we're using template literals to use variable inside that string. So let's try to run it and see what happens. Okay, it's saying unterminated string at line 2 column 20. So let's see why is that. Okay, if this condition is false, in that case we have to say position plus plus column plus plus, and then we're also going to have to say tokens dot push, and we're going to push a new object. Here we're going to say type equals to string, and the value will be our result. Save. Let's try to run it. And as you can see, now we get a keyword and the value is print. Then we get a string type and the value is hello world. Again we have a keyword, and then we have a string and the value is hello world. So this is working. Okay, for now let's just keep our parser this simple. We'll be adding the variable declaration part later on. But now we need to use our tokens. So to get the desired output out of our tokens, usually we use our tokens to create an abstract syntax tree. But since our programming language is very simple, I'm not going to do that. We're simply going to parse these tokens. So let's create another method. So we're going to call it parse, like so. And the parse method will take tokens as its argument. So tokens, like so. So here we can again say parse, this dot parse, and then pass our tokens here. So for now, let's just say console log tokens. So to make sure it is working, so console log tokens, save. Let's try to run this. Okay, before that, one thing I noticed is in the else statement we won't be doing this. Instead, since we did not match any of this condition, that means we must have did something wrong. So we are going to say unexpected character, and then we can also specify, we can also show the character. So we can say $, curly brace, and then we can say this dot codes. So this dot codes and pause, so character at that position. So we must have an unexpected character, showing the character at line at column. So save it. Let's try to have some illegal characters. So for example, a question mark here. Let's try to save it. Let's try to run it, and as you can see, it says unexpected character question mark at line 2 column 6. Okay, let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Column part is working, but line part is not working. Actually it is working. That is because here is our literal, and then in the next line we have this print statement. So let's try to make it like so. Let's see if this works. Save. Let's try to run it, and now this is saying unexpected character question mark at line 1 column 6. This should be good enough for our tokenizer. So now here in our parse method, here we have to loop through all of our tokens. So here we are going to say tokens dot for each. So for each of the token, we are going to run this function. We're using an arrow function here. Okay, here we can also do another thing, is use the return keyword. So that way, if we have any error, all these codes will not be executed. And now we don't need this console log. We can remove it. Okay, now here we're going to check if, actually instead of using a for each loop, it would be better if we use a while loop. So that would be more flexible. So let's use a while loop. So here again we can say const length for length equals to tokens dot length. So tokens dot length, and then we're also going to say let position. So pause for position equals to 0. And again we're going to say while our position is less than length. So before we were looping through all of our character, and let me remove this, and now we're looping through all our tokens using the while loop. So here we can say const token equals to tokens. It should be okay, we called it tokens. It should be tokens at that position. So here we're going to say if the token type is equals to keyword. So if the token type is keyword and the value of the keyword is print, so that means if we scroll up, as you can see in our grammar, we have this match here. So we have matched a first part of our rule. So now we have to make sure the second part also matches. So now since we have encountered a print statement, after that we want to get a string. So for now, let's just talk about string. We'll talk about variable later. So now let's make sure we have a string after the print keyword. So here we're going to say let is string, and here we're going to say tokens. So tokens post plus 1. So that is because the token at our position index is our keyword, our print keyword. So now we want to check if the position plus 1 or if the next token is a type of string. Now before that, we just want to check if this is true or this exists. That is because what if, let me just try to delete this. So if I delete this, now we only have print statement, but we don't have a string afterwards. So this is an unexpected end of our code. So this is an error. So that is why we are first checking if we have a token or not. If we do have token, then we also want to check if the type of our token is a string. So here we are going to say if is string, if exclamation mark is string. So if this is not a string, in that case, first we are going to check if tokens position. So tokens at that position exists. So position plus 1. So if that token at that position, we can say exclamation mark to check if the token at that position does not exist. If it does not exist, that is an error. So we can say, we can return an error. So we are going to say return, we can return console log unexpected end of line, and then we can also say expected string. Otherwise, if it is not a string, we are going to say console.log return console.log unexpected token, and then we can also specify the type of our token. So let's again use $ curly brace. Actually we have to use backticks here now, so backticks like so. So here we can say tokens at position +1, so pos +1 dot type like so. If this condition is false, that means we have successfully matched a rule, so we can execute it. So we can simply say console.log tokens at that position and its value. And we also have to say position plus equals to 2. That is because we have looped through two positions, the print statement and the string after that. So that is why we're saying position plus equals to 2 instead of just position plus plus. Here for now let's just say position plus plus also, just so that it is not an infinite loop. And let's try to run it. And we have an error. It is saying length equal to tokens.length. Okay, we have forgot to make it tokens. So tokens.length. Run. And now as you can see we get hello world, so it is working. So our hello world part is working. Now we have successfully created a programming language where we can print anything when we use the print keyword. Now let's see how we can use variables here. So we should be able to say var and then message, and the message can be, let's say, secret message. Let's say secret message like so. And then here in the print, instead of using hello world, we should be able to just say message. So let's see how we can do that. So now we have to make some changes in our Lexer. By the way, I'm writing everything inside the loop, all the condition inside the loop. If you want, you can create separate functions for them. That would be a better approach. But to keep things simple, I'm just going to type everything inside the blocks, if blocks. So here we're pushing our keywords. So now let's go up. Here we're also going to create a new variable. So we're going to say const built-in keywords. So these are the keywords that will be built in. So print keyword will be a built-in keyword. Another built-in keyword will be the var keyword. So these two will be our built-in keyword. So now instead of just saying tokens.push here, we can, let me just comment this out. So here we can see if built-in keywords, so built-in keywords dot includes, so includes, if the built-in keyword includes our result, in that case we are going to say tokens.push, type will be keyword and the value will be result. Otherwise we can say tokens.push, and this time we can say the type will be keyword underscore custom. So this is not a built-in keyword, this will be a custom keyword, and the value will once again be our result. If you want, you can make it a little bit compact by, let me just comment this out, and let me just take this Ctrl C and we can paste it. Let's say paste it here, Ctrl V. Let me fix the indentation and let me remove the comments. Okay. So instead of using the if else, you could use a ternary operator here. So here we could say, let me just copy this, so Ctrl C. So if this condition is true, in that case we'll say keyword, otherwise let's use a colon. So otherwise it will be keyword underscore custom, like so. So let's just delete all of this, we don't need these codes here. So now before the else here, we are going to have another condition. So we're going to say else if our current character, so here we're going to say else if current character equals to equal sign. In that case we are also going to say position plus plus, so position plus plus column plus plus, and then we're also going to say this dot tokens dot push, and here the type will be op for operator, or let's just say operator, like so, and the value will be eq for equal sign or assignment operator, whatever you want to say. Okay, now if we were to run this, we get hello world and then unexpected custom keyword expected string. Why? That is because in our parser we're only checking if our next token is a string and not checking for a variable. So we have to update our parser also. But before that, let's try to just console log our tokens to make sure everything is working. So let's say console.log tokens, save, let's run it. So as you can see, our equal operator is eq, our variable custom variable name is matches, and we also have a var keyword. So yeah, everything is working now. So here we're also going to select is var or is variable. Actually before that, let's see how we can make sure we are successfully declaring a variable. So for that we're going to say else if, and here we're going to say if token type, so token the type, if the type equals to keyword underscore custom, So let me just copy it. So where we seeing this, yeah, keyword custom from here. So if our keyword type is custom keyword, if our token type is a custom keyword, and we're also going to say if token, it should be token not tokens, so token dot value equals to var. So that means now we have encountered a token that has a type of custom keyword and a value of var. So that means we have come to this var keyword here. So now we have to make sure the next token is actually the type will be keyword. So since variable is not a custom keyword, it is a built-in keyword. So here we're saying if type equals to keyword and the token value equals to var. That means we have come to this var keyword. So now we have to make sure the next token is this custom keyword. So the name can be anything, but that have to be a custom keyword. After that we have to have a eq operator or equal sign operator. After that we have to have a token type of string. So let's see how we can do that. So first we have to make sure the next character is a custom keyword. So here we're going to say const is custom kw for keyword, and here we're again going to say if tokens, so token at that position. So if token at that position exists, so again we're making sure we're not running out of tokens, and then the type of that is equals to a custom keyword. So if it is not, so we're going to say if exclamation mark is custom keyword. So if it is not a custom keyword, in that case first we're going to say if exclamation mark token position +1. So if we don't have a next token, that means we have run out of tokens, but we did not find a custom keyword. That in that case we are going to say unexpected end of line expected custom expected variable names. So we can say variable name like so. Otherwise we have some other type of token, so we can say return, and we can just copy this line here. So let me just copy this, Control C. So unexpected token, this expected variable name. So let me just copy this here, Control C, Control V like so. Otherwise we have successfully found a variable name. So we're going to say const variable name equals to tokens position +1 dot value. After that we have to make sure the next token is a equal sign. So here we're going to say const is eq for is equal sign, and here we're going to say if tokens at position +2. That is because now we're checking not the next but the token after the next one, after the variable name here. So here we're saying position +2. If token at position +2 exists and the type will equals to operator and the value of that is eq. After that we're going to do some similar to this. So here we're going to say if exclamation mark is eq. So if it is not a equal sign, here we're going to say if, and then we can say if exclamation mark tokens at position +2. In that case we are going to say unexpected end of line, we expected a equal sign. Otherwise we have some different type of tokens. So again we can just copy this, so Control C, and we can paste it, Control V, and here expected equal sign like so. So now we have matched a variable name, we have matched a equal sign. So now we have to make sure the next token is a string, since our language only supports string and not numbers. So here we're checking is string. So if the token at position +3 and the position +3 is a type of string, so here again we're going to say if exclamation mark is string. In that case again we're going to say if. Now of course you could have made a function that uses all the logic. I'm just keeping things simple. So again we're going to say if exclamation mark token at position +3. In that case we're saying unexpected end of line expected string. Otherwise we have matched some other type of tokens. So we are going to say console log unexpected token, and then console logging the type of the token we expected a string. Now if all the conditions were true, that means we have matched this syntax of declaring a variable. So we have to do something now. So now in our parse method we're going to have a object, so that we're going to say const, and then we're going to call it vars. Vars will be an object that will store all our variables. So here before doing anything we have one last check. So we are going to say if you remember we have saved var name, so we are saving the variable name in this var name variable, and then we are saying if var name, so var name in vars. So what that means is we already have a variable with that name in our vars object. That means we are trying to redeclare a variable that is already been declared. In that case we are going to say console log, we are going to say return console log variable variable name already exists. Otherwise, we are going to say variable vars variable equals to token3.value. So we are adding a new variable into our vars object, and then we are also going to say position plus equals to 4. Since we have looped through 1, 2, 3, 4 tokens, we are saying position plus equals to 4. Okay, so now here instead of saying post plus plus, we won't be having post plus plus, we'll have a else. That means we have found some unexpected tokens, so that is why we're saying unexpected token and then token type. Since we did not match any of our rule, that means it must be an unexpected token or invalid syntax. So we are simply going to say unexpected token and the token type like so. So now we are able to declare a variable. So now inside our this if block here, we need to make sure a print statement can be followed by a string or a variable. So let's see how we can do that. So here we are going to say let is var for is variable, and here we are going to say if tokens. So we can just copy this also, so Control C, Control V. If we have tokens at that position and then token plus 1 has a type of custom keyword, that means this is a variable. Actually here instead of checking if token exists twice, we can just delete them from both of these. Control X, and we can cut this out, so Control X, and we can add it before doing anything. So if we have a print keyword and there is no next token, that means we have reached to an unexpected end of line. So here we are going to say if exclamation mark is string and exclamation mark is var. So if the next token is not a string or a variable, in that case we are going to have this error here. Otherwise, let me just cut this, Control X. Otherwise we are going to say if, so if it is a variable, so is var, in that case we want to do something. Otherwise it is a string, so we are going to say else we can just do this. But if it is a var, we want to say if exclamation mark token plus 1 dot value. So token plus 1 is our custom keyword, so that the variable name, and we are checking if the variable name or if the variable exists in our vars object. So we are not trying to use an undefined variable. So if we are in fact trying to access an undefined variable, in that case we are going to say undefined variable, and then we are saying tokens position plus 1 dot value. So otherwise we are going to say console.log vars tokens plus 1 dot value. So we are accessing the value of the variable. Save, and let's try to run it. So it says hello and secret message. That is because we are first printing hello and then we are declaring a variable and then printing the message. Okay, then now let's try to have some error. So for example, if I don't have a quote here, run it. As you can see, now we have this error saying unterminated string at line 1 column 55. So our error handling is also working. Let's try to use a different variable name. So this does not exist. Let's try to run it. Now it's saying undefined variable messages, so this does not exist. So everything is working. So finally, to make sure our language prints everything in magenta, what I'm going to do is I am going to refer to this page here. So I have found this Stack Overflow page which contains the codes that you need to print colorful text. So I'll leave the link to this in the video description, and by the way, I'll also leave the link to the finished code in the video description also. So as you can see, these are the codes that you can use to print something in the console using colors. So this is the syntax. So you just have to have a code here. So let me just copy this part here, Control C, and let's go to our parser. So we are successfully printing our stuff in 2 places. Let's see what are those. So that is here and here. So here we can use this to print text in colors. So let me paste it here also, Control V. If we were to save it, run it one more time. Now we get this cyan color, but we want magenta. So let's go back and let's see where is the magenta. So FG for foreground. Foreground is text and BG is background. So here is the magenta. So we can copy this, Control C, and we have to replace this part here. So Control V and Control V. And this part here is used to reset the color back to white. Save, run it. And now we get our text printed in magenta, and we have successfully created our own very tiny programming language from scratch. So I hope you have enjoyed this video a lot. If you did, consider subscribing to my channel. That would help me a lot. Otherwise, that's all. I'll see you in the next one.